Hello and welcome to our first Friday episode of the Downtown Dish. I am your host, Katie Schamberger. So glad you're here with us. This week we have a great lineup of guests, all from the Crossroads neighborhood. You'll be hearing from David Johnson with the Crossroads Community Association, Mariah Hilson with Arts KC, and Chef Selena Tio of the Belfry. Big shout out to our partners who help make the Downtown Dish happen every week. Thank you to the Downtown Council, KC Streetcar, Downtown Neighborhood Association, and Lynchpin Ideas. Also want to send a big thanks this week. That beautiful music that you're hearing comes to us courtesy of local musician, activist, storyteller, and entrepreneur Royce Sauce Candy. You might know him as They Call Me Sauce, and he's also part of a local band called New Black City. Please find and connect with Sauce on all major social media platforms. You can also check out his music on Spotify, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, and his newest song is available via 90.9 The Bridge. Speaking of social media, please keep sharing your feedback, your suggestions for the Downtown Dish, places that you're eating and drinking and visiting. Go to your favorite social media channel, use hashtag DowntownDishKC. We can't wait to see where you're headed. Let's dive into this week's show. It's been a challenging and painful week here in Kansas City and around the United States as we join the Black community in speaking out against the death of George Floyd and calling for much needed reform in the wake of his and too many other senseless and needless deaths. Maybe you, like me, are looking for ways to be a better partner, a better ally, a better community member, and that's where our friends at the Kansas City Public Library have come in. They have created a wonderful list of books and articles and other resources. And maybe if you see that you want to own one of the books that they suggest, this would be a perfect opportunity to support a locally owned bookstore. Of course, we have Afterward Tavern here in the Crossroads in downtown, and also a Black-owned bookstore, Willa's Books, over by Research Medical Center in the Brookside neighborhood. Thank you so much to the Kansas City Public Library for putting this list together.
Show you off 'cause you fine.
All right, let's dive into our interviews for this week. First up, I am so excited to welcome David Johnson, a longtime friend, former co-worker, and a longtime resident of the Crossroads neighborhood, also on the board at the Crossroads Community Association. David, welcome to the Downtown Dish.
Thank you, Katie. I'm excited to be here and talk about my favorite neighborhood in Kansas City with you.
Did you remember that we were, in fact, co-workers?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a second when you mentioned it, and I was like, oh yeah, I did have a month, an 8-month-long job where Katie and I were, in the same company, and then I moved on, and then I think you did too, like not long
I
after
did.
that. Yeah.
Now tell us. Yeah, good times. Actually, honestly, my favorite memory is meeting up with you unplanned, and we were both headed to, I want to say it was Visit KC's last annual meeting that they did as a luncheon before they switched to the dinner format. Yeah, so anyways, memories. But you have been in the Crossroads for a while. When did you move to that neighborhood?
Yeah, I'm celebrating my 16th year in the Crossroads this month. I moved into my condo at 19th in Baltimore in 2004, and it's just been great to watch the neighborhood evolve over that amount of time, exceeding my wildest expectations. I mean, I was drawn by First Friday. I should note that. I just, walked into the model unit and said, "This is it. I want this activity around me." Only to find out that it wasn't that way the whole month of every
right.
It was really one night a year. But it slowly became a daily, fun, lively atmosphere, and in short order, especially in the last 5 years, just 7 days a week. And used to be, it was really dead on Sundays and evenings during the week, but now it's all the time, and it's great.
Well, and I know we were talking earlier too about, seeing that First Friday's activity expand over, in the eastern direction. And I remember being down in the early 2000s as a full-time employee at the Star, and we kind of almost used the Star building at that time, the original building, as, we didn't really stray east of there because there wasn't a whole lot going on. And now I think if you really wanted to hit everything, given that every place would be open, you'd be hard pressed to get everywhere in one night.
Yeah, I mean, the eastward momentum has been pretty impressive, and it's all organic. You could make the argument that the core of the Crossroads would have happened regardless because it's in between Midtown and downtown, like right on Main Street, cutting through the middle. But going east, I mean, that was it's a mix of cheaper properties and there's a long time interest in connecting to the east side along 18th Street, and so that's finally coming to fruition. And you're likely to see as many people walking around 18th and Oak now as you would be at 19th and Baltimore. So it's very exciting.
Awesome. Well, and of course, this is the perfect day to have you with us. It is First Friday. Normally, June 1st Friday would be kicking off an exceptionally busy summer season, but of course, we are in the midst of the pandemic. But David, I want you to take us back because I want to refresh everyone's memory that there were some significant changes happening to First Friday long before March. So can you take us back to last summer and some of the evolution that started happening there in the fall with the event itself?
Yeah, so August 1st Friday was a real turning point for the neighborhood. We had a shooting occur during First Friday, peak crowds, people everywhere, and someone died as a result of that. And culminating in that First Friday, there had been some sort of rumblings in the neighborhood that the crowds were getting too big, and we were spinning up a relatively elaborate security apparatus just to control the crowd and the vendors and food trucks and everything. And it happened very, very quick. In the space of less than a year, the crowds almost doubled in size. And it seemed to be that the focus had shifted as well. And, so we worked with the city. They've been a great partner and created a festival license program where we could kind of control what was happening on that one night. And that still required a lot of work. And, we're a member-supported neighborhood association. We don't, we're not swimming in money. And mostly volunteer. And so that incident, not only did it kind of wake everybody up again about, like we needed a reminder about gun violence, but it gave the neighborhood a chance to get together and talk about what we really wanted to showcase on First Friday, and to remind everybody that it is still about art. That is the primary motivation. We're not doing it to make money, and the galleries mostly don't make a lot of money on First Friday, but they get a lot of exposure. And so we kind of held on to that and said we would revisit and make some changes. And so we did, and we got September, which of course was the solemn memorial, and then October, and then we usually suspend sort of our quote normal operations through the winter, even though all the galleries are usually open and displaying new exhibits. So of course, as we're coming out of our winter slumber, COVID happens, right? Because that's February, March. And so, and the emergency order, so we essentially had to publicly say no First Friday in March and April, and then May as well, because it was extended. And so now we're really trying to remind people that the galleries have kind of more or less always been open, and their normal course of business is to see people by appointment who may be interested in looking at or buying, in the case of commercials galleries, buying some art. So we want to remind everybody this month that while only a very small handful of galleries are actually open in the traditional sense, and none of the normal trappings will be available out in the street, that the galleries are open for appointments, and they're actively showing new work and exhibits. And they'd love to see you, and they'd especially love for you to come and support the artist by buying art, or just in the case of the more non-commercial spaces, just having a look at the collections.
Well, and I love that because art, obviously, as it is to you, I love your beautiful collection behind you.
It's almost all Crossroads artists or
Oh
purchased
my
in the
gosh.
Crossroads. So I'm very proud of it. I'm not by any means a serious collector. I just love, the diversity of art in the neighborhood, and just the
Yes.
overall scene in Kansas City. It's a lot edgier than we get credit for, and the Crossroads has been a great focal point for that beyond the region.
What do you think, David? I've seen in my experience that there can sometimes be a stigma around galleries, that maybe they're not very welcoming spaces, or you're really going to feel that pressure to buy. But what are your thoughts? Because I feel like that's definitely not the vibe in the Crossroads and in so many galleries across Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to remember is that no one's born a patron of the arts,
Right.
or an art buyer. You pick it up from someone, or you learn it, and some people study it, some people just like to collect it. And I'm in the latter camp. I don't have an art background, but I've been around enough creative people to have an appreciation for all the different styles. And I lean toward, as you can tell, more towards modern and abstract stuff and color. And so, but it's important to know that the gallery owners are used to dealing with people who don't have an intense art background. They are coming to either buy something they love, find an artist they love, or something just to fit in the living room that they're decorating. Like it's not as sort of complicated as some people would think it is. And
Right.
it's certainly not like going into a car dealership, right, where the pressure is on to buy something.
Right.
I've never ever felt that. And so it's important, I think, for people to remember that even if you're just looking and you're curious, to call up and make an appointment, especially right now where a small group of people, those have always been the best experiences, by the way, that I've had in the neighborhood, where small groups of people are kind of touring a gallery space or an exhibit. But right now, while we're not supposed to be in large groups, to take advantage of the fact that the galleries are really needing people to come in, and by some extension of that, to buy some of the art. I mean,
I love that. But David, before we go, as such a wonderful and involved active resident in the Crossroads, can you toss a couple recommendations to us? Do you have a favorite gallery, couple favorite restaurants, anywhere else that you spend a lot of time in the neighborhood?
well, I'll totally cop out and say it's impossible to pick just one. So it depends on what
Right.
you're looking for. So when I want to be really stimulated and challenged, Volp's Bastille, which is a sort of artist-run gallery on Locust, 18th and Locust, is a really great way if you're looking to be challenged about what is art. And it's also being an artist-run space. It's sort of unique in the neighborhood. And then, it's hard to beat Lady Volkos as the sort of, one of the first to really set their feet down in the Crossroads and plant that Arts District flag many years ago. And I think they transitioned to a nonprofit, and they've really kept the programming at a very high level. And they've always been very welcoming and accessible. And I think they have like 3 or 4 gallery spaces that are constantly
Awesome.
programmed with new work. And they're one of the places that you should absolutely look up for an appointment because they have so much work under one roof to look at, and it's always changing and evolving. And it's also just one that people are very familiar with in the 2000 block of Baltimore. And so those are my kind of my go-to gallery recommendations, and they represent very different spectrums of work.
Sure.
So restaurant-wise,
Yes.
because
Ready. I'm ready.
big
I'm taking
restaurant
notes.
person, and I love sit-down restaurants, and so this has been a real challenge for me to just do
Yes.
carry out. So We have personally kept a fair in business
Yeah.
during the emergency order, and they have really evolved so quickly into a good carryout operation. Um, and I think they still are definitely doing carryout. But I'm really happy to see Farina open again, which is right across the street here. Michael Smith's Italian concept that opened last year. And it's just amazing food. And he really found his groove with the Italian thing and the raw bar. My husband's a big fan of oysters, and so we're there quite often. But between that and a fair, and then of course Tannin, my
Oh,
longtime favorite, formerly JP Wine Bar,
yep.
and I think they're starting to do their patio this week.
Yep.
They had done some a sort of softer carry-out thing. It wasn't the full menu, but you could, of course, always get wine and
Yes.
beer to go. And I think they were doing canned cocktails or cocktails in jars. And so that's been really interesting to see how the local businesses have pivoted to try and survive the lockdown and still be flexible and provide. Like we bought a produce box from a fair, which is something that had never
Awesome.
done before. And so we got for $35, we got like a huge box of produce that lasted us 2 weeks because it's just two
Nice.
people here. And so yeah, it's just been really great to have those restaurants that were already our favorites be able to survive. Knock on wood, those really hard weeks where no one could go anywhere.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and just my scrolling on social media leads me to believe that this is going to be a bigger weekend. It looks like today, Friday, earlier this week, even into this weekend, seems to be, kind of an entry point for even more businesses to, open back up to some dine-in services. So definitely will be really exciting to watch.
Yeah, and I have to put a plug in for the city's new sidewalk and sort of parking lot outdoor dining program because,
Yes.
I've done a lot of work in that sort of like public space repositioning, and we had one of the highest. We were one of the neighborhoods with the highest level of interest. The people that contacted the city restaurants
Great.
to take advantage of the program, and so we know that we, as an association, we put that information out as soon as it was approved by the council. And so I have to applaud Councilman Bunch and Mayor Lucas and Councilwoman Andrea Boo for pushing that along quickly and being flexible in a time of intense need for our local restaurants.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you. We have talked about that the last couple of weeks, but I love you bringing even more context and those very well-deserved shout outs. So, David, thank you. This was wonderful as I knew it would be, and we will all keep an eye out for each other in the crossroads, and hopefully you'll be seeing some Downtown Dish friends very soon.
All right.
Never
Good to see
met
you.
him, I'll introduce you to Ali Gates. Maybe
Sure,
we'll see
you've probably
taking Rich and them
also
on
seen
their
some of the wonderful lists that have been circulating this week, highlighting Black-owned businesses here in Kansas City. And here at the Downtown Dish, we wanted to put just a couple more resources on your radar. These are both smartphone apps, KC Soul and Black Privilege, that will instantly connect you to Black-owned business listings, as well as a bunch of other resources like events, networking opportunities, and so much more. I want to send a big thanks to our friends at Monarch Coffee in Midtown for putting these two apps on our radar. And we also want to encourage you to continue to support the really incredible array of Black-owned businesses here in Kansas City, of course, but also in downtown Kansas City, especially in the restaurant scene. So we've compiled a list for you. Please share, spread the word, send us your favorites and recommendations that we might have missed. Use our hashtag DowntownDishKC, and thanks for your support.
all the legends, as long as I'm in your presence, baby, all I want is you.
Long days and 5 lonely nights. Break up with plans, just ain't working right. I've been chasing the door and I can't eat a bite. Seeing your face would be one lovely sight. And Sunday.
I am so thrilled to have our next guest. Mariah Hilson is the Program Manager of Audience Development with Arts KC right here in the Crossroads. Mariah, welcome to the Downtown Dish.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for having me.
So glad to see you, and glad that you're here, because I love how David gave us a perspective of kind of First Fridays as an event, its growth, some of the changes. And now I want you to take us a little deeper into not just First Fridays, but the arts community. So give us just a quick background on Arts KC and the role that you have here in Kansas City.
Yeah, so Arts KC is a regional arts council. We serve a 5-county region. So that means Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties in Missouri, and Johnson and Wyandotte County in Kansas. Our job is to support, promote, and advocate for the arts in that region, and the region around Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas. So that means that we support artist and nonprofit arts organizations through funding. So we give grants to individual artists and organizations of all sizes and all disciplines. So not just visual art. We're talking theater, poets, directors, actors, writers, all kinds of artistic expression. And we also advocate for the arts on the municipal level, but also at the state level in Missouri and Kansas as well, and work with regional municipalities throughout those 5 counties to help them integrate the arts into their decision making and make sure that the arts are at the table when decisions are being made.
Tell us a little bit about how Arts KC has responded, and maybe how you have worked with these artists and these organizations to pivot as best they can when, such a immense roadblock is thrown up.
Now we've got to really think about the short term. We need video capabilities. We need equipment. We need people that have, knowledge of how to video in their homes or do this kind of interaction that we're doing now. It's not something that arts organizations, they've been considering, across the board. It's not as if they didn't know, or Arts KC didn't know that online was a possibility, but now it's a necessity. And, what I have seen is just organizations pivot so fast. What is so brilliant about the arts community in particular is it's made up of people that are crazy creative and crazy innovative. So you put a problem in front of them and they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out fast.
Well, and to your point, I think that, I, at least me, I could see myself as an audience member. I mean, my gosh, I've had just an incredible time with tuning into musicians I love, both near and far, that have just, started streaming, and, walkthroughs of galleries or spaces or studios, and I feel like, I hope that some of our current challenges have maybe brought those audience expectations down a little bit so that they do feel more invested. This is something that we are participating in together. I don't need it to be perfect or flawless or just dazzling. What's important is that, we're here. Unfortunately, we're not face to face like maybe we would want to be, but we are together. And so I hope that that's a mindset that's taking root and that's growing.
Yeah, and I think with organizations too, and with artists, seeing being able to differentiate between like the experience that you are creating online is not the same as the experience that you create live. Like that's really the bread and butter, the thing that people are so passionate about. And what you put live is just, this is important for audiences to understand too, is that it is just a small sliver of what it is like to experience that, theater production or that, live music in person. And so what I would encourage everyone to do is remember, like, arts organizations and artists are still creating work right now, but be ready.
Yeah.
Like, like, be ready when we are ready. And everyone's gonna come out at a different time.
Right, right.
Everyone has a different comfortability,
Absolutely.
comfort level. But yeah, the organizations and artists are ready to perform live, and really need your patronage right now, more than ever.
This is the time when art is more important than ever. Any thoughts on that role that art plays in times that maybe people wouldn't think of it necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing it, simply. I could give very simple examples. People posting on social media, taking videos, making protest signs, making music in this time too. That it's art is a way that people express the lived experience they're having, and also the perception of what's going on around them.
Mariah, give us some other resources that we can stay tapped into artist organizations and events.
Yeah, so Arts KC actually runs an online event calendar, at artskcgo.com. And so anyway, so there is a virtual category, and each event that is virtual is like bold, this is a virtual event, or if it's postponed. And now that we're getting into a time period where galleries are starting to open, in those smaller spaces that have the ability to control crowds a little bit more. It will be a while before we see full-fledged theater productions live. Not necessarily we will see them live online.
Yes.
So Caesar,
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And there are a couple organizations like the KC Repertory Theater, that are already doing live productions. But those galleries are reopening, and we will do our best, on artskcgo.com. If there is a specific organization that you already have in your head, like, I know that I want to see what's up with the Unicorn, go check out the Unicorn's website, and their Facebook pages, follow their social media. It's important right now, to make sure you're still staying engaged, not just for your own, kind of mental health and helping to cope with everything that is happening, the protests, and the continued racial issues that we are facing as a country. So you need to, like, keep consuming, don't shut off. A lot of things, like keep consuming information, but also keep consuming art. And a lot of artists in particular, organizations, that requires getting some more strategy together behind.
Right.
Artists are a lot of artists coming together to create a production, but especially what I have seen, last week and this week, and from the start of the pandemic too, a lot of artists creating work that is relevant to what we're doing, what we're seeing right now. That's what art has always been. So artskcgo.com also includes an artist directory. So you can go on there,
Wonderful.
look for artists, and these aren't just visual artists, although there are a lot of visual artists on the directory, but musicians, actors, directors, poets, spoken word, sculpturists, just, like, look for whatever you're interested in. There's lots of search criteria, or go on Facebook. Look on Facebook, Instagram, play around with hashtags, find some people, Look specifically for the types of artists that you're looking for. Black artists in Kansas City, a specific genre that you might be looking for, opera in Kansas City. There have been opera singers that, are recording live. So just take some time. There is an endless amount of creativity that is continuing around our city.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. You have given us so much to think about and also so much to do, and I'm grateful to you for that. Thank you again, Mariah, for being with us on the Downtown Dish today.
Thank you so much, Judy. I really
All the
appreciate it.
legends, as long as I'm in your presence, baby. All I
You so
want
fine, baby. And every time that we connect, and it's good times, baby. We go together like mashed potatoes and gravy. Good times while you in Vegas. Acid wash in the 80s or Mike and Curl from the...
As we conclude this first Friday episode of the Downtown Dish, want to put a very important event on your radar because it starts today. Juneteenth, Kansas City is going to kick off a series of virtual events to honor Juneteenth, which celebrates the liberation of African Americans from slavery in the United States since 1863. Now this year, things are going to be a little different because of the pandemic, so all of the Juneteenth KC events are going virtual. They start today, and you can join this afternoon at 4 o'clock on Facebook. That's not all. They're going to keep the events going throughout June with a lot of interactive and engaging opportunities. They're working with partners including the American Jazz Museum, the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, and the Black Archives of Mid-America Incorporated to bring you all sorts of learning, entertainment opportunities for the whole family. Visit juneteenth-kc.com to get the full rundown, and I hope that you'll join me at the virtual celebration on Facebook later today.
I can hit your place around 8. Let's
In
make it a
concluding
day.
our interviews today on our first Friday edition of the Downtown Dish, I am so thrilled to welcome, who I'm sure is a familiar face to many of you, Chef Selena Teo of the Belfry. Chef Teo, welcome to the Downtown Dish.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, I want you to take us back because I know that people who are familiar with your background know that you have had some incredible culinary adventures, TV star, several restaurants, but probably not anything like the last few weeks with the pandemic, if I'm right.
No, yeah, it has been it's been crazy. It's actually kind of been fun too, for the main reason that one of the things I love about this business is the learning curve, being a business owner. And boy, the learning curve on how to pivot your business is like, it just skyrocketed.
Well, and I'm glad that you said that because that's really what I want to focus in on, because I am so impressed with your curbside service because I feel like you have just really introduced a spectrum. You've got the family meal kits that I know have been a big hit, individual dishes, desserts, even pantry staples. And I saw a great social media post from the restaurant, maybe a couple weeks ago, like, hey, maybe you have a chicken from Costco and you want to dress it up or, add some sides or some sauces. And so tell us, was that kind of your vision from the start in the curbside, or has it evolved over the last few weeks, that learning curve that you mentioned?
It has exactly evolved, just as you mentioned. I've added things every day.
Okay.
When we first got I think it was the Thursday, March 17th, around there, that my friend helped me, and he basically took my website and made it so I could do online ordering. So he created the online ordering thing, and then I just populated the entire thing with pictures and menu descriptions and feature, and then dragged everything around and created the site. He gave me the shell, and then I figured it all out. That was a learning curve. No, and I originally just had the menu on first, to be honest, people have always said, "Oh man, I love your sauces. I always wish I could take them home." So this is something I've wanted to do and I've always thought about doing, but never got the opportunity to. And then when this happened, I'm like, well, I better chop and get this done so I can just, figure out what else I can sell. I literally stood in the bar in the kitchen. I'm like, what else can I sell that I have? What else can I do?
And I love, was there a point when you were doing delivery, or I just remember seeing a great picture on your Square site of you and you're making a great face and you've got all these bags like in the back seat behind you, and I was just like that. I mean, that just sums it up. Like I'm feeling hectic and a little crazy, but I'm here and I'm working, and we're just getting through it.
Oh yeah, that's a funny picture. I finally took it out of the email because people are probably done looking at it, but it was it was a funny day. And note to self, I can fit 36 meal kits in my car. So
okay, awesome. So tell us too. What do the next couple weeks look like? I know it's so hard. I feel like we're all living day to day, even sometimes hour to hour right now. Things are changing rapidly. Just a lot of challenging circumstances, but have you thought about reopening, or does curbside feel like a good fit? What's ahead for the Belfry?
Well, believe it or not, after all this, with the meal kits that I've been doing, everybody that's been getting the meal kits don't want them to go away once we get back to whatever normal is.
Right.
So after all this, it's going to turn out that I actually add a position on, which is pretty incredible and cool.
Awesome.
So I will keep the curbside. I will keep all those Belfry batch kitchen things, the sauces and whatnot to go. And because people have been buying them and enjoying them, and somebody else had a dressing from the meal kit. She's like, "Oh my God, I need more of the dressing." I'm like, "That's on my website. You can get it." So I will continue to do that. As far as reopening for dine-in, that was kind of a decision that I came to with my entire team. And the first thing that I thought of was, am I personally comfortable going to a restaurant right now today? And people were asking me 2 weeks ago, because on 15th they lightened the restrictions, right? And I said, no, I absolutely would not go sit in a restaurant right now, as much as I want to support them. And I do pick up and carry out you've probably seen my hashtag support your neighbor kind of pictures and whatnot. I try and do what I can and pay it forward for all the people that have dined with us and supported us during this time. But I am not ready to sit in a restaurant. So even back then I said probably June 15th, people. And so that's kind of the date that we're going with right now still. And that was the decision that I literally had a meeting with my team last night, and we collectively came up with, how the steps of service should be. What menu do we keep all the menu items? How do we do, just tap to pay, and how will they pay? I like how Messenger does it. It's like grab a tissue, sign with your finger, and then they're sanitized again anyway. So all these other things are best practices that I've seen other places do. We're just trying to bring them all together and see what's going to work best for us. The only thing that's going to be weird for me is, there's just certain steps of service coming from a fine dining background that I'm just it's ingrained in me. And so it will make me crazy that maybe somebody will be paying and they still have dirty dishes on their table or something.
Oh, right.
But it's going to be something that it's going to make more sense, because I don't want the servers to go to the table 20 times, right? They should go to the table as minimum times as they need to, get the order, deliver the order, clear the plates. It's not going to clear a glass here and there. It's going to be one fell swoop. And I don't know, maybe do we even just ask the guests, here, you can just put it in the bus tub and we'll take care of it. Or, I'm actually going to send an email out to my email group and ask what do you want to see happen? What's going to make you feel comfortable? Because I also want to hear from our regulars and our guests and people that have dined with us what they want to see when they come into the Belfry. Because we're a tiny little intimate spot, and that's why people like us. I will take advantage of the city being kind and allowing us to have a sidewalk cafe during this temporary time. That will be helpful. So I will put 5 little tables out on the 16th Street.
Awesome. Okay.
So and then we're going to move a table into the foyer also.
Yep. Okay.
So the capacity inside will only have like 4 bar tables, which will easily be 8 to 10 feet away from each other. 1 table in the nook. That's where you sat last time you were in.
Yep.
And then there'll only be maybe like, I don't even know the rule if there's bar seating or not. But if there is, I think there would, with the right distance, I would only have like 4 people at the bar.
I think it is. I think it did go. It's back into effect as of this last Sunday. But yeah, you just got to be able to keep that 6 feet. So however many stools that allows. But I love that though. I mean, I hope that that's a theme that people are picking up on the Downtown Dish is your focus on bringing your staff into those discussions, and now you're going to reach out to those regular customers, because we've just heard so many great stories over the last month about, people in their individual businesses coming together, which multiplies into the neighborhood. So for instance here, Crossroads, and really is reflective then of the entire downtown area. So obviously just incredible challenges, but to your point, the creativity and the collaboration that's coming out right now, that's something that I know may have been prompted under, some duress, but hopefully the spirit of that will stay with us even as we, kind of forge ahead and things return to whatever they're going to return to.
Exactly.
Before we go, since it is our first Friday's episode, Chef Tio, give us a couple of your favorite Crossroads neighborhood hangouts that you're looking forward to getting back to, maybe a favorite restaurant or bar. Would love to know where you spend your time.
Well, I definitely can't wait, and I especially liked seeing their cute little patios. I can't wait to sit at the bar at Novel again.
Yes.
That will be a huge thing. I still haven't tried and want to try Michael Corvino's sandwich
Ravenous.
kiosk, Ravenous there. And then I love Katrin and Martin at a fair, and want to see them again.
It's funny, David, as we all heard earlier in this episode, David Johnson says that he's been single-handedly keeping them in business. So very, very glad to hear that. But Chef, thank you so much. Please know that you have a seat at our Downtown Dish table anytime. So if we can help you or spread the word as things change there at the Belfry, please keep us in the loop, and we will be seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
We covered a lot today on the Downtown Dish. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's been a challenging week for so many, but take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we look forward to seeing you back here next Friday. Have a great weekend.
Don't come to play, you ain't ate. Let's get you a plate. Pull up to Paseo, the best barbecue you